Bring it up.
We are unmuted and we are live. Great. Okay, it is about 6:05. I'm going to call this meeting to order.
Tucker Whitman is excused. Andy Dennison is excused. Ben Vitale,
Here.
Chris Petrus,
Here.
Paul Pinckney,
Right next to me.
Keith Batman,
Here.
Hans Kutcher,
Here.
Mark Strong,
Here.
Heidi Nightingale,
Here.
Elaine Daly,
Here.
Tricia Kerr,
Here.
Timothy Lattimore,
Present.
Michael Didio,
Here.
Ryan Foley,
Present.
Aileen McNabb Coleman.
Present. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please stand for a moment of silence. Thank you.
Our sincere condolences to the family and friends of Patricia Kostisic, mother of Suzanne Gothier, administrative assistant to the planning department. Charles D. Dennison, father of legislator Andy Dennison. He was a former Cayuga County legislator and very active in his community. Proclamations, Americans with Disabilities Act Day in Cayuga County, July 26, 2021. It has been presented. Pretrial probation and parole supervision week, July 18th through the 24th, 2021.
I didn't see him. Thank you. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
It's a reappointments. Angela Nazini, 110 Eastwood Ave, Auburn, New York. Term 1/1/20 to 12/31/24. It's a reappointment. Dr. Burns, 10 Ketchel Street, Auburn. Term 1/1/21 to 12/31/24. These are for the proper appointment.
The motion on those appointments?
So moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion on those? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those are carried. Thank you.
And there are no communications or announcements.
Okay, up next on our agenda is the Cayuga Community College Report with Dr. Durant. I see you're with us this evening, Dr. Durant.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, good to be with you. I apologize for some technical difficulties last week at Ways and Means, if that was on my end, or just in general. So, today in front of you are two resolutions from the college. One of them is our operating budget. As previously reported, it was the intention of our college trustees and our leadership to be able to build a responsible budget for 21-22 that would not have a tuition increase for our students. And we also did not introduce any new fees that are directly related to the student bills. Although we do have a service related fee that's unrelated to specifically to student enrollment. So the budget in front of you also represents that the college is not requesting an increase of operating support to our sponsoring county of Cayuga. We appreciate the support that you give us both financially and in leadership. And we also recognize that, given the unknowns related to the financing in this world and so on and so forth, that at this point, when we were building our budget over the late winter and early spring, that we just felt like we wanted to do our part and try to build a responsible budget that did not include an increase to the county as well for this year. Although, in the future, we certainly will be looking to do so when the timing is better for both of us. Also in the budget from the highest of levels, it represents an overall spending decrease of over 4.5%. The budget that you approved last year as presented and approved by our trustees was 28,570,000. And the budget that we have our college trustees have approved for 21-22 is 27,300,000. So not only are we not increasing cost to students, we are reducing our overall institutional spending in our budget, like I said before, by 4.5%, and feel as though it's the responsible thing. And also, I think it demonstrates our financial stewardship, how we have been able to not only create budgets that are balanced and appropriate given our size of enrollment, but also how we've been able to close our year with balanced budgets and with the addition of modest increases to our fund balance in some of those particular years. So we're asking you for your support. We apologize for not making all the correct steps in the process, but your consideration of this budget this evening certainly helps us stay on our timeline to present the information and forward it along to the State University of New York in a timely manner. The other resolution I believe in your packet tonight is related to an agreement, contractual agreement with one of our labor unions, and that is with our maintenance and facilities union. We certainly ask you for your support of that contract as well. And publicly, I want to thank the leadership group of that particular association for the professionalism, the diligence, and the commitment to try to reach agreement in a timely manner prior to expiration of that particular contract. And as already approved by our College Board of Trustees, I ask you to support that and urge that. In general, at the college, obviously, we are transitioning to focus on our planning for the 21-22 year. Budget is a major piece of that. But similar to everyone else, we are, working and continue to work in the world where, COVID-19 and the requirements of the state of New York, State University of New York, continue to be on our forefront of our minds. We are prepared this fall to expand and reopen, if you will, our on-campus offerings when it comes to face-to-face classes. And we will continue to leverage institutional technology to provide opportunities for people to enroll from a distance through interactive video, synchronous and asynchronous instruction, and to be able to try to provide as many different pathways as reasonable for students to be able to engage and maintain their pathways towards his or her goal of completion or degree or certificate. So, we've been much focused on that, thanks to the county leadership and the health department for the support and guidance along the way. We're also mindful that we're planning for what ifs, and we're doing the best that we can with all that's there. The other major updates from the college over the last month or so is we did have a retirement in our VP of Student Affairs role, Jeff Rosenthal, who had been at the college for a number of years. And as a replacement for that particular position, the college actually went ahead and did a reorganization of structure. And in essence, the college's Dean for Student Affairs, Dr. Kathy Dodderer, has assumed responsibilities for an expanded role. And now her title will rest as the Vice President of Student Affairs. That reorganization results in the elimination of an executive level position for us. And, that's part of what we're doing, just like everyone else, to make sure that we can have, budgets that are reasonable as we project ahead and look ahead. So that has also been accomplished in the last month. And then the other item, of course, through your great support over a year ago to support the Advanced Manufacturing Institute on our Fulton campus capital project after getting donations from private and public funders, including the college's foundation, which we're very grateful for all their support. We had put out to bid our manufacturing project on our Fulton campus to build out the new institute and to be able to move forward with a project that was many years in the visioning. And we're proud to say that we did a bid opening last week. Great competitive bids, and we are going to be moving forward with a selection of a firm to be able to move ahead and begin that project on or around Labor Day. And hopefully that project will be completed by the latest in early 22. So, we're continuing to do our part to be not only responsible financially, but to identify the avenues that we think programmatically make sense And that project would not be possible, certainly without your support, the state support, and all the investors in the private and public and foundational levels. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Latimer.
Mr. President, I've got 3 or 4 questions I want to ask you. But the first one, it was a nice picture of the culinary opening the other day. You had quite a lineup of dignitaries there. We had the Lieutenant Governor, our U.S. Senator, Mr. Manchin, and others. One of the things that the schools have been hampered with was the formula in which we get student aid. Has there been any discussion in regards to that? That's question number 1. And then I had my usual question about our NASA platform. I think that could be very helpful since we've got billionaires fighting over the airspace. And also, would you talk on? Let's see. There was one other thing I had. Now, the number of students that we actually have enrolled. You talk about the budget, and it's the budget has come down a little bit. But is that because we don't need professors because we don't have students, or other factors?
How much time do you have?
But anyways, I mean, in the picture in the paper, it was a nice lineup of dignitaries, but it would have been nice if we had our appointee, Miss Trish Kerr, who's appointed at the college to be in that photo, but there was no county representation in the meeting. I don't think. Go ahead, sir.
Well, let me answer all those questions. They're important ones. So the first one related to the photo and related to the coverage itself on the event itself. Programmatically, at the end, it was the intent, and I will own it. It's my responsibility. It was the intent to have an additional ribbon cutting, representative of the other dignitaries that were not in that initial photo, and certainly to be part of our photo platform for recognition of the event. Certainly in no way meant to slight the county at all. We obviously go as each other goes, and I apologize. I did not mean to offend anyone. We appreciate those of you who were in attendance and know we got positive feedback on all the different representation from the various groups who participated. Secondly, related to the funding formula, there has been a major change that I've mentioned in previous meetings that is year to year at this point, but in the executive budget, at the state level, passed again in April of 21. It's the second year in a row where the budget included a 98% floor for state aid funding. And to try to oversimplify that, just so we didn't get lost in my analytical weeds here, what that really means, based on only a 1-year window, because that's as long as it's good for in the law, if you will, that no community college in New York, when it comes to base aid, was going to receive less than 90%, 98% of the state aid in which it received the year before, regardless of enrollment. You could receive more in base aid if your enrollment performance based on the long-standing formula warranted an increase in that particular amount. We at Cayuga, many other colleges across the state benefited from that action, that legislative action, and that actually is probably in our revenue cycle at our institution. Marie's on the phone, so she can jump in if I'm wrong on this. I believe when we looked at that back in April, that was about a $500,000 to $600,000 difference in the amount of aid that we received to the positive, which was part of our reason why we were able to even maintain a budget at 27.3. Marie, is that's approximately correct, right?
Yeah, it was about 600,000.
Okay. So then to answer the other question, Legislator Lattimore, enrollment has been in a decline at the college for a number of years. And, we have built a budget this year that we're asking you to pass that we think conservatively or realistically, has an FTE estimate at about 1,600 FTE. And that, in contrast to current year, is nearly 400 FTE fewer year over year. Now, we performed this year in 2021 in an unknown pandemic. We anticipate to be somewhere in the high 17 to low 1800 FTE range when all said and done, when we get into September and we reconcile the enrollments. However, applications this year have been, it's been a little bit of an anomaly year for us. Can we talk about the pattern of registration, the pattern of applying to colleges? Anecdotally, I think that a great deal has to do with that, based on the virtual nature that maybe some seniors in high school were in, maybe with other circumstances, people unsure if they were going to go to college, if they would travel, and so on and so forth. And also, we continue to see some of our pockets of our community in decline of traditional graduation classes, and our capture rates continue to be very solid. It's solid when you have fewer people. So that doesn't mean that we're not looking at strategies and investment to try to mitigate these losses. We believe that we have in a number of pockets. Seeing the culinary program get off the ground is one. Obviously, when the Falcon Park project and athletics opened, we then went into a pandemic. We haven't been able to get some of our new sports off the ground. That has been an issue for us that was unforeseen. We're looking to, continue to do our part to look at programs and so on. But the reality of it is, no, we're proud that this budget includes our ability to maintain a workforce to the level that we are. We have been managing attrition kind of aggressively. We know that impacts our people and our community in a way that we otherwise wish we wouldn't, but we're doing our best that we can to preserve what we have. And that is the short-term promise. Longer term, we need to be doing our best to position ourselves and reimagine ourselves to be the modern college in this new world as we move forward based on the enrollment reality. So I know those are a lot of words, but it's also going to be a big part of our leadership theme as we move forward. And you know what? That includes the things that you talk about. And I know we talk about IIGT a lot. IIGT itself obviously is a separate entity, unrelated to anything that we do academically at the college. The GIS program at the college that is geospatial technology, to be even continue to be direct about it, it has 3 students in that program. 3. It's one of our least enrolled programs at the college. And it had been historically going back way before my time here. But that doesn't mean that there is not a modern curriculum or a current curriculum that might emerge that we're looking at, and we are exploring, that could be the right next program for us, that includes sentiments of geospatial technology or other modalities, to be able to look ahead and look to our future. And that's part of what we, with our trustees, our leadership, and our faculty, we're having those conversations. We're trying to look ahead. I continue to try to urge each of us to be, we have to be reasonably patient. And I know that it's been a number of years with that, but when it comes to what we're trying to focus on at the institution right now, we certainly are trying to make sure that right now, our educational deliveries, when it comes to our technology, when it comes to seamless enrollment and pathway to completion, is at the forefront of our mind, because we need to be able to compete in that marketplace. We need to have the infrastructure in place to support our students and to attract students, or we are going to continue to be beyond the forefront of what our field is, and that's not what we want to do. So, we're going to continue to keep you posted and go and move as we go. I believe I touched on each of those.
Thank you very much. There's one curriculum that I like, the culinary. There's one curriculum that Trish and I saw, the sound curriculum that's out of Florida, and I'd like to see that maybe looked at seriously to see whether or not we could fill the seats at the college with students on sound engineering. We have film engineering up there. That the video goes pretty good, and I think the sound would go along with it, would enhance the program.
The college does have sound technology program. It has a concentration area within one of its degrees. We have courses that are set up to support students and in that particular discipline. We created those recently. We're getting prepared to offer those, and we certainly are going to look for some non-credit offerings as well to be able to see if that's a way to engage folks with the institution. We've had conversations with partners. We'll continue to explore it, but we do have the curriculum in place to at least get something started. We created that 2 years ago, and it is in place to get running as early as next spring, if there's interest in student enrollment in it.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Durant? Mr. Bettman?
Thank you. Yeah, I've got a couple too. My first is, I'm just curious, the 98% base, that will be based this year on what enrollment number? And not the exact number, but will that be based upon last year's enrollment? Because enrollment was above the 98%.
Yeah, Keith, what it really is based on is your aidable number based on that 3-year rolling formula, how it's weighted. That 3-year rolling formula that was weighted a year ago, which determined the aid that we received for 2021, that number, then spin ahead, do your current number based on your enrollment performance or projected performance, including now the most recent 3-year average, including 2021. And that determines what your aidable number is. And whatever that math is, when you multiply that by the current rate, you were never going to receive the dollar amount less than 98% of the dollar amount that you received in 2021. The further complication to that, which is I didn't say the first time, there was an increase of that rate this year. So there was even more opportunity to have increased dollars. But even with that increased dollar amount, with the enrollment decline, we still benefited by about $600,000, as Marie confirmed, for our aidable dollar amount received.
Thanks. My second question is what's the status of fall sports?
Great question. So fall sports for the college are set to go as scheduled and as is. Camps will open in the next couple of weeks to prepare for men's and women's soccer, women's volleyball. And, working with our Region 3, working with others, at this point, everything is scheduled as it will be a traditional season with traditional testing or traveling and so on and so forth. We do have protocols in place for testing for those that are not vaccinated. We do have protocols in place that the region will be matching when it comes to distancing and other particular factors. But at this point, we anticipate them to go as scheduled and all of our sports as scheduled. But as you know, the only caution that we give to each other is each day is different, I'm not sure what it's going to mean for us locally or what it's going to be, but I saw the CDC come out with a recent announcement this afternoon and how that may impact SUNY colleges, how they look forward. At the SUNY level, including obviously Cayuga Community College, we are not yet able to require vaccination. We're participating in a statewide hope that students will get vaccinated, and we're looking to encourage as many athletes as possibly vaccinated to be able to, do our part and really help them have the season that they want to have too. So that's where we are with sports, and we're managing it both from a programmatic standpoint as well as the health and safety concerns.
Any other questions for Dr. Durant? Hearing none, thank you, Dr. Durant, for your report this evening. Appreciate it.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Up next on our agenda, we have committee reports and individual legislator reports. Start with Mr. Bettman.
Yeah, I want to make a couple of reports or reminders about the cooperative extension. First is our chair sent out the 4-H schedule. If anyone's able to do that, it's a little bit Thursday, but mostly Friday and Saturday, and primarily 9 to 5. And the importance of 4-H, of course, is it's a major way to promote agriculture, and it also acts to some extent as a training ground for young kids and an introduction in some cases, in many cases, to farms and farm careers. So it's 4-H is quite a good program. I think it's got wide support, and it was a chance. This is where people show up. Their lambs, their hogs, their cows, and their chickens. And there may even be ducks this year, but it's worth a stop if you have a chance. The other thing I want to mention is that, as we will remember, the Department of Extension is moving to the college, and the college will be renovating the building on Grand Avenue for economic development, one stop, and I think probably some other uses. That's going to be a long process, several years of renovation, but the Department of Extension actually made the first move of their stuff this week. So that's on schedule. Stuff in, offices are kind of a mess, as you might imagine, but that will smooth out as we go through. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that.
Thank you very much. Actually, I had that on my report, Dan Welch,
I
this
didn't say
morning.
anything.
And no, the same thing, just a reminder of 4-H in that they are getting settled in employment training. They're in that center. IT got set up. They're almost completely ready to go. So they do welcome, a stop or visit. So if you would like to visit, please reach out to Dan Welch. And of course, you can see employment and training as well in the same spot.
So they've already moved in?
Yes. Yep, they're just fine tuning some things, moving some furniture. Okay, thank you, Legislator Bettman. Other committee reports, legislative reports. We'll do with Mr. Vitale, was your hand up?
Yeah.
Then we'll do Mr. Fuller and Mr. Lattimore.
An update on the regional water project. A week from tomorrow, I believe at 1 o'clock, there will be a presentation at City Hall. We'll have it at City Hall, that way people that want to come will have room to come. There'll be a presentation on the project, and the intent is to pass a resolution approving the final draft, so that next month, hopefully we can bring that to Public Works and start moving that through the legislative process. So I'm sure you'll get a notice on it in the next few days, but save the date, next Wednesday at 1 o'clock, City Hall. I'm pretty sure they will, because that's one of the other reasons why we went there, is because they have the capability of doing all that at City Hall.
Any questions?
Yes. Yeah, we've been revising it over the last month or so. So there's a few minor changes, and we just hope to start moving along so that we can start searching for money.
Mr. Lattimore?
I've always been in favor of having a dual water source because of the, the different droughts and the different things that are going on in the lakes, and the cyanobacteria, the blue-green algae is one of them. I think Cayuga Lake had 23 outbreaks or something, and I know that we've been talking about trying to get rid of the hydrilla. Before we finalize this, I hope that somehow we keep point source, keep the material out of the lake that's causing this, the nutrients that are going in, according to Mr. Halfman's study. This is 65 pages. From Mr. Halfman indicating that, they're going to continue if we don't somehow keep that nutrient out of the lakes. So hopefully we can do that.
Well, one of the parts that we're working on is Hanako Road, Sunset Beach Road, and one other one there. There are a lot of summer camps, year-round homes now, and there's a lot of questionable sewage treatment that's going on there. And one of the things that we really hope to accomplish is to get sewer line put through there so that we can deal with all that. They're right next to the lake, and I'll be honest with you, we at the county think we inspect those septic systems, those holding tanks and stuff, but I think as we do a little bit more and more research, we're not doing as good a job as we think we're doing. We try to do the best we can. I know we do. but it's a tough job.
Question for Mr. Vitale?
Just to your point, I attended Board of Health today and they talked about, you're talking about nutrient loading and the impact to the lake. And I thought, if I understood correctly, and Kathleen's here, that Aileen thought perhaps the 9-element plan would be ready for sort of introduction, just like they did with the TMDL for Cayuga Lake, potentially at the end of August. Is that September?
It's been delayed a bit, and perhaps Steve, you might be able to speak more to it since you felt under the.
Go ahead, Steve.
The 9-element plan, we'll be doing a presentation to ALA to discuss a little bit on it. Our target is by the end of the year to have the plan done.
And then introduce it and the findings and go from there.
Yes, we are looking for either a late September or early October public meeting to discuss it.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Vitale and his report? Go ahead.
I know that Doug Kear's been asking for a new weed cutter, and I hope that we put that on our wish list, that we do have to take the nutrients out by taking the plant life out of these lakes. So hopefully we can come up with a system or a boat that can handle what's been growing vegetation wise in the lakes.
Great, thank you. I have up next Mr. Foley.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a quick update on the veterans hiring process. That committee is comprised of myself, Mr. Mark Strong, Aileen, an HR representative. Like I'm leaving out someone.
Mr. Orman.
Yes, Mr. Orman, right. Mark and Jim are the veterans, have previous military service, so they're natural, I'm sure, from people down there in the HR. So we've met, I believe, a couple times. HR has received applications and sifted through them, presented them to us. We've been reviewing them and just going through the process. And we will be trying to find maybe the best 3, best 1, presenting that person to the legislature as we go on. And so I just want to make sure everyone has those details. If you have any questions, please get a hold of me.
Thank you. We had Mr. Lattimore's. Do you have a report, or did you have a report?
Do I have a report on which subject matter?
I don't, a legislative report. I took the roll call of 3 hands in a row, so I wasn't sure if you had
No,
anything to report on.
no, I don't have any questions or reports at this time, but I'll be glad to have one by the end of the meeting.
No doubt. I fully expect that. I think you can do it before the end. I'm confident.
I might add a few things.
No.
Any other legislative reports or committee reports you'd like to share with us today? Okay. Up next, the chair report. Before I provide the chair report, I've asked Kathleen Cuddy to attend to give us an update about where we are as a county in our relationship with COVID-19.
Stand here.
Yeah, that's fine.
We distance enough.
No, but are you vaccinated? I guess
I'm
is the question.
vaccinated. County vaccinated.
I am too. So we're okay.
I'm still rabid, but
Yeah. Well, I like the new layout. This is great. So COVID is still with us. It's not, it's frustrating right now. We're seeing the numbers go up. So let me just share a little bit of data with you. We sent out an update yesterday. We've seen a significant increase in cases during the month of July in particular. So to put that in perspective, in June, we had 45 total positive cases. In July, up through yesterday, we had 51 cases. The last 2 days, we've had 6 children under the age of 10 who've been positive. That's concerning for a county our size, and it's concerning because it's children who cannot be vaccinated at this time. They're not eligible. And it's concerning because school is coming upon us much quicker than many of us would like to think, because if you haven't been vaccinated and wish to be, you have to do it now before school starts, right? Because there's a time period. Get your shot, wait your 3 weeks or your 4 weeks, get your second shot, and then 2 weeks in order to be fully vaccinated. And we've had a lot of conversation in different areas about school readiness, and all of us are certainly in favor of wanting to keep our children in the classroom for their learning. And this is a huge manner in which to do so. So if you have school personnel friends, encourage them. But all of us who are eligible to do so should give strong consideration. I encourage all of you to encourage vaccination. That is going to be our primary way to keep COVID from continuing to spread. In addition, so today, right now, we have 37 people in isolation, so 9 since our report yesterday. We've had a number of cases recently where adult children, and when I say it, I'll say their 40s and 50s, were unvaccinated, became positive, but in the interim of identifying their positive status, had interacted with their elderly parents. That has caused their elderly parents, even though they were vaccinated, to become positive. By nature of the age, 80 plus, many of these individuals are more immune compromised, plus they may have chronic diseases. It's not cool, right? We don't want to see that happen because people are trying to do the right thing. Where we're seeing our least percentage of vaccination rates are 30s, 40s, 20s, 30s, 40s. And so we really want to see that age group increase their vaccination status along with our eligible children. We had outbreak at a senior citizen complex where a similar situation based on our case investigation, a couple went to a relative's home. The relatives were not vaccinated, nor was the couple. They brought it back to their senior center, and they would sit in communal areas with others who some were and some were not vaccinated. What is supposed to happen is if you are not vaccinated, you're supposed to wear a face cover when you are interacting with others in a social situation or with others who are not in your household. That is one physical barrier to help prevent the spread of the virus. Is it 100%? No, nothing's 100%, but it significantly diminishes the rate of transmission, as we saw, last year when we saw a much lesser transmission of other types of viruses, right, that typically circulate. Face covering do help. Washing your hands helps. A really big factor, and I know we talked about that from a county employment point of view and other places. Stay home if you're symptomatic or don't feel good. Stay home. We're very fortunate in this county to have great sick leave policies. We need to encourage our staff to do that. If they don't feel well, we need them to stay home. A lot of people have very mild symptoms, and allergies can be mistaken can be mistaken when you're actually positive. We had a situation in a daycare center, similar situation where young children, as well as some of the daycare providers, assumed it was not COVID. It was. Other people became positive, and a number of people were quarantined because children, again, at this age group, are not yet eligible for vaccination. That really hurts a livelihood, and the fact that if you're the daycare provider, you can't perform your job. But if you're a working parent, you have to stay home with your child or find alternate daycare. And we know that that's a very difficult task. We have a meeting scheduled for next week, most likely on Wednesday, with our superintendent. So we're going to speak some more about plans for schools. We do have some funding to be able to assist schools with COVID-19 prevention activities and cleaning and physical barriers. So we hope that the schools will take advantage of this opportunity. We'll be working with them to assist them in that. In testing opportunities, also this funding can be used for that. We've had some good conversation with an entity that provides saliva testing. And I believe the college has used this same company in the past. And that may be more palatable for parents to have their children tested, knowing that it's not a nasopharyngeal test, but it's still a PCR-based test. So I guess I just leave you, unless you have questions with, stay home if you're sick, get your vaccine, wear a face cover if you're not vaccinated. We're going to watch our numbers. Right now, we're not looking to execute a face covering recommendations or mandates, but that's not to say we won't look that way if the numbers continue to increase. It's a lot of common sense guidance, but we need to do it.
Kathleen, what is the current vaccination rate in Cayuga County?
It's about 50% of those eligible. Now, we get slightly different numbers depending on what data center you look at. So I just printed off the most recent CDC one for our county. And of the percentage of our total population, fully vaccinated, they say 48.3%. And that was as of this morning at 6 a.m. At least one dose, they say 50.9%.
Thank you.
Additional question, Mr. Petrick?
I had a complaint from a fully vaccinated person just yesterday. He was denied entry into the building because he wasn't wearing a face mask. Checking further, there appears to be no particular policy in place.
Then we should create one.
Pardon me?
We should create a policy then for face cover use. Visitors right now are supposed to wear face covers because unless they can verify that, and I guess that's another thing we should give consideration to, and that I would defer to our chairwoman and our, the people at the doors about that. That would be a business decision.
Currently, all visitors to our building wear face coverings. That's the policy,
Regardless of their status.
irregardless of status.
The question is there, when did we pass this policy?
We did not pass a policy, no formal policy. It's
There's no
guidance.
policy in other words.
No, we did not pass it. Mr. Beck?
But wasn't there an agreement with the CSEA?
Yes, so,
Insist that people be masked?
so we had a meeting with CSEA and myself and HR, and we agreed upon, mutually acceptable procedural, whatever you want, not policy, not legal policy, but practice, I guess. I see Mr. Tanis is here from CSEA.
You did circulate that through email?
We did.
Yes.
Yes.
So Adam,
If people do have to have masks, are we providing them?
we
for the
are.
Public downstairs, we have enough.
We certainly do, yes. And there-
And would you just give me an update as the DMV is open, not open, with face mask, not face mask?
DMV is open, wide open to walk-ins completely. Everyone's a walk-in. There's no more appointment system. And all visitors wear masks.
Everybody who goes to DMV
Yep.
is wearing a mask.
You got it. And then there, also the historian's office is in place and also open.
And for county employees, the directive or the thing you communicated was that if you are fully immunized and you're a county employee, you wouldn't be required to mask. But if you cannot verify your vaccination status with HR, the expectation is you have a face covering.
You
Is
got it.
that correct?
That's correct.
I think they did send that information out.
We did, yes, and publicize that information. And what we say, like for instance, with public facing departments, if you are vaccinated and you're behind plexiglass, as they are downstairs, and if you're asked to pull your mask on, they would do so for the public to respect the public.
Without question.
Right, and as I said, this is a mutually agreed upon procedure that the CSEA asked that this be in place for their membership as our employees would like this to be that way. So, Mr. Foley?
This may be a question for either Kathleen or legal, but if we were going to try to reverse that policy in the next negotiations and say you are not required to wear face masks to enter the county office building, how would we go about doing so as a body or as a initiative to direct whoever is in those negotiations representing the county in negotiations with CSCA.
So with respect to the negotiations, we just talked about that one issue, I don't want to talk about what we trade,
Right.
I don't want to talk about negotiations.
Right.
But with respect to that issue, I mean, it would be by resolution. That's how the legislature performs any function, is by resolution. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Well,
How would you accomplish that? It'd be by resolution.
by resolution.
And majority vote.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I just wanted to Mr. Foley's point, I would like to highlight that, going into a meeting with the union and when they're representing their membership, which is our employees, I, throughout this entire pandemic, would like to provide a productive and safe atmosphere for our employees to work in. And I respectfully agree that, if they are asking for masks to be worn by the public, I respect that. And I didn't push back on that. So, that's, certainly don't want to disrespect our employees. I want them to be productive and feel safe and secure here. That's me as your chair. Ms. Kerr?
In terms of the children, the 6 kids under 10, just curious if there was a connection between them or is that scattered site?
With some of them, there's a connection. They're not all households, but we can pick an index case and some connections.
Okay. And then can you just comment on testing for the variants?
So, and yes, in the fact that the health department doesn't request any tests for the variants, but I did speak with a representative from the hospital today who verified that Delta variant is in our community. The last I was aware, and this certainly may have changed, there are Sentinel laboratories that are testing for this. And they're previously, and that may not still be the case, it was breakthrough cases that were being tested for the Delta variant. I believe it's more testing is being done now, but I can't tell you the process and how that's determined.
Ms. Peters?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just curious, do you have any information regarding mortality rates? I thought I heard on the radio on the way in that the mortality rate from COVID was 0.5, and for Delta variant was 0.2. Can you verify that?
I don't know that statistic. I can look for it and let you know that.
That, I mean, no rush, but I would be curious to see if that can be validated.
Mr. Strong?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is there a specific test for the Delta variant?
No, so it would be a lab test, a specimen that's collected would have to go to a particular laboratory for them to do the analysis. So I can't tell you more than that. I'm not a lab technician in that regard. So that's where there's certain laboratories that receive the specimens and have the wherewithal to be able to identify.
Is that like, do they test every sample that comes in, or they just randomly select one?
I don't know that process.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I had asked the hospital if, I had posed a question if they were doing the actual testing for the Delta variant at this point, and thought the representative from the lab said that it would take a specialized genotyping. So you have to even go further in terms of identifying the variant of the COVID-19. And I didn't think they were doing it here at our hospital. They would probably have to send it out to a specialized lab to get that specific genotype done.
So for example, Wadsworth Laboratory has that capacity. They have that technology in order to perform that.
Mr. Ledmer?
I mean, vaccines are very good in polio and all that, it does work. But eventually, aren't we going to have a herd immunity to this virus? And it would be nice to have a test to see how close we are to that, so we can open up everything instead of letting the vaccine manufacturers control our lives. I just worry about the
profit margin or the profit aspect of the vaccine to, you gotta keep vaccinating. Maybe we have herd immunity with the kids. I'd like to be able to test somebody to see where we are.
We only have
50%, 2%, whatever the percentage.
What's herd immunity, 75?
At least 80% vaccination rate.
I'm sorry, 80?
At least 80% vaccination rate would be considered a herd immunity in a community.
And,
Go ahead. That's fine.
thank you. Would that 80% be a composite of both vaccinated and those with antibodies from having had COVID?
I won't answer that because I won't be able to answer it correctly. My understanding is it should be the vaccination rate. The antibodies alone will not necessarily provide your immunity for as long lasting as the vaccine should.
Tricky stuff.
We are continuing to do vaccine clinics. I think it's important for you all to realize that. And for you know, we have some open clinics and we have closed clinics. And we're being very creative in our outreach and approaches. And many of your communities, there have been people who've really helped us. Our volunteer fire departments are phenomenal and providing assistance in some of our more rural areas. And we've got a roadshow going where Nancy Purdy, our Director of Community Health Services, is accompanied by a physician, Dr. Barb Connor right now, has been a physician who's accompanied her and provided some really great education to people because people have questions similar to what you're asking that are more complicated than what I'm able to convey in a good manner that a physician may be able to address much more succinctly and very objectively. Because, and that's where we want to encourage people to talk with their healthcare providers if they have questions, because everyone's situation may be a little bit different. And they need to have their answers accurately or their questions accurately responded to. And to that point, we're trying to do a series of articles this week to put out various informational aspects, but also one of these articles will be to answer some of the common misconceptions that we are hearing about that are processing through the community.
When can we get Fauci here?
And we are doing some of that outreach within the county as well with our employees.
We are, so thank you for bringing that up. And with Bob Janice is here, we had some communication with our CSEA, and we're looking to set up some for all employees, both vaccinated and unvaccinated, because even if you're vaccinated, you can be a great ambassador of information to people who have questions. And if you're unvaccinated, hopefully we can answer your questions for you to give more serious consideration to consider being vaccinated.
Any further questions for Kathleen? Trishka?
Thank you. I was just curious about what the time period is that vaccination is good for, and do we need to be thinking about boosters, or is that not a concern?
That's absolutely something that's being studied. And again, similar to the question I think that Mr. Petrus asked, I don't know those answers because we don't have solid and true answers yet, but we know that it's being studied. And it's quite possible, but I don't have it. I don't want to say something and just say, I think.
Right.
I want to base it on facts that we have, and I don't have that fact at this point in time.
Thank you.
Legislator Nightingale.
One question you might not be able to ask. I'm curious about transmission and if one who is vaccinated could actually be a carrier still to others.
That's great timing that you brought that up, because the CDC just released some additional information today, and that was one of the questions that was responded to. And the answer is yes. It's far less likely. You'll probably have a lesser viral load, but it is possible.
Additional questions? All right, none. Thank you so much, Kathleen, for the update. Appreciate it. I was remiss not to welcome everyone to Chambers. I think this is maybe the fullest house we've had since we've had people back in person. So I appreciate everyone being here and I appreciate everyone coming. I see lots of visitors today, so I'm happy that we've had to see people in Chambers. So welcome. Thank you. Didn't get a chance to do that at the beginning. I'm going to continue on with my report. Last week, I attended a farm tour with Partnerships for Healthy Watersheds. Some of you attended in person. I know Legislator Kerr was there. A lot of you maybe attended online as it was a virtual event as well. Mr. Latimer talked about keeping nutrients out of the lake. They had a great display. I only was able to visit one of 3 farms and it was a very hot day. I had other meetings, but kudos. I know you went to all 3, Trish. It was a great display of all of the investment and the science and the best practices that our 3 particular farms have invested in and have on display. So it was a really great opportunity for many members of the community to go out and see this. And they're talking about keeping that soil on the land and doing what's best for both their crops and the lakes and the streams and the tributaries around them. So it was really great. Lots of things that we learned, lots of things about that. So appreciate the opportunity. The Compensation Committee has been meeting to review our non-bargaining compensation plan. We had a very productive meeting this month. The Legislature was sent an update to your email. We will be discussing this update, so thank you to the committee for your help on this month particularly. I think that we had a very valuable meeting this week or last week, so I'm looking forward to your input. As I mentioned, the county DMV is completely open for walk-ins. It's been a welcome change. In addition, the historian's office is back open as well. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all departments and employees for following the masking protocols and supporting one another through the past several months to get to this point. Capital planning. Don Carr and Gary Duckett have developed a sample RFP on a needs assessment for our county. This will be finalized and advertised in the coming days. This is also an advancement that we've been working on in between all the other things that have been going on. So I appreciate Don and Gary and their effort on this to get this moving. On July 13th, my office was alerted that Casawasco had sustained serious damage due to recent storms. There was debris that threatened the integrity of the roadways. There was damage to building and culverts, in addition to some flooding. There were 45 campers on site that were not in harm's way. However, the road was compromised going inside and out of the camp. Help arrived and strengthened the road, which would have been compromised by the storms the following evening. I want to thank many partners for the quick response. Dale Courier, Emergency Management Director here at the county. The governor's office was contacted and New York State Police and the drone team was sent on site. Bill Correa, Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Services Director was on site for our region, actually for the Buffalo region. Sean Hennessy is a Regional Director of DOT, Cayuga County Highway and Town Highway, and all of the volunteers who came to lend a hand. This is an example of what an organized request for help looks like, and this response was tremendous. I'm so pleased that Cayuga County is finally in this position. When we ask for help, we get it. We have employed a number of people at this point and who have the experience. They know what buttons to push. They know who to call. Help arrives. We were not in this position a year ago, 2 years ago. So we've made some strides. So it was a great, tremendous response. Lynn Marinelli, our budget director, and I participated in a meeting with the city of Auburn about the court space at the HPO. We'll keep you updated on the next steps with that. County departments have submitted proposals for the American Rescue funding. I will compile these requests in a presentation to you in the coming weeks. In addition to our meeting at the city, we also touched on the rescue funding with the city manager. As our focus narrows, we will reach out to the city on any collaborative projects or goals. Cayuga County will be holding a workshop presentation and an FAQ session with towns and villages on the American Rescue Funds. This will take place via Zoom on August 3rd at 11 a.m. An invitation went out yesterday Please let the towns and village leaders whom you represent know to look at their email. We've asked for questions to be sent ahead of time in order to effectively outline a helpful session. I have asked a representative from Senator Schumer's office to be present to clarify any information they have accepted. So it would be great to have that resource on hand for our towns and villages as well. Shared services meetings will be resuming in person, and a schedule will be developed for late August and early September for our first meeting. Cayuga County budgets requests were sent to departments, and we've begun the process of collecting their input. This is kicking off a very busy time in our budget cycle, so this is officially the beginning of that. The restaurant voucher program, our Cayuga County website has been developed. It's 95% identical to Onondaga County. The name of our program is called Cayuga Counts. We will discuss marketing strategies and logistics for restaurants and residents tomorrow. We have a meeting. This will be live at the end of August, but stay tuned for updates. And last but not least, the fireworks. Fireworks are scheduled for Emerson Park to take place on Sunday, August 8th. The event comes on the heels of Auburn Founder's Day weekend, so please mark that in your calendars. And that is my report this evening. Questions for me? Mr. Letterman.
Madam Chair, you tasked me with maybe reaching out to the superintendent of the schools in regards to our celebration on the second Sunday in August, to maybe do a little celebration of our sports teams and maybe our salutatorians and valedictorians from the different school districts, and maybe honor them before the band starts at the pavilion. And I reached out to Jeff today, so hopefully the word will get out. We can, the one little lady, the spelling champ, I mean, I'm a terrible speller. I would love to make sure we honor her. And just bring the kids together. They came through a very difficult time. I think the psychological damage of this whole put a mask on, can't go to school, has developed who knows what kind of problems we're gonna have with that generation. So you're still encouraging me to pursue that, is that correct?
Absolutely.
All right.
Please follow up with me on that. We will get that organized. Mr. Battle.
We might be sure to reach out to the county schools too.
I want all our, we need champions at this point. Scholastically, sports wise, let those kids know that we care during this pandemic to.
Yeah, no, I think the ideas are great. It's just that
We're gonna have-
not the county. It's all.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, I just
I'm
want.
inclusive. I'm inclusive.
Good.
Ms. Daly.
I just have a curious question. As we start the shared service exercise again, have any of our projects been, that we have submitted have they been acted on, funded?
They have, yes, in fact. One of the biggest ones that we were able to receive funding for was for Falcon Park and our partnership with CCC and the city of
So
Auburn.
there was some resolution on that and some award for,
I believe, I may misspeak, but I would say over $300,000 went to the city on that as well. So, and I don't remember what CCC,
I'm just
but yes,
curious.
it was very, very successful.
Okay.
That's one piece of it.
Madam Chair, in your visit to the farms, I would like to be able to maybe help out some farmers with their waste management systems to make sure that that nutrient levels aren't getting into the streams and that. Can we use any of the funding that we had for some kind of prevention or filtering of some of that material?
You know, between Cornell Cooperative, Soil and Water, and the Partnerships for Healthy Watersheds, the Owasco Lake Management Council, Water Quality Management Agency, there are a lot of resources out there to coordinate, I guess, with any sort of agricultural institution who needs help. I will say the farms that we visited really on the cutting edge, from the way they plant to the way they fertilize to the way they harvest, dealing with slopes, dealing with, it was incredible. So there are a lot of people doing great things. And I believe that, they're trying to share that education amongst one another. But in terms of, I guess, I'm not sure what you mean about filtering a filter system.
Well, I mean, you mentioned Casawasco had damage. I know that the water levels have been coming into the lake a lot faster, and that's carrying a lot of sediment, a lot of other nutrients beside, off the farm.
Right.
So if we can come up with some kind of Cornell thinking to help the farm keep that soil, that topsoil on the land instead of in the lake.
And then certainly we want to reduce the phosphorus that's already in the water by harvesting the weeds, and we have many water bodies to consider with that too. Any other questions for me or my report? Okay, thank you. We will move on to resolutions. Ways and Means has no resolutions this month?
No.
Are you sure? Okay. Next, we'll go to Health and Human with Legislator Daily.
Sure. Health and Human Services had 10 resolutions. They've gone through both committees, HHS and Ways and Means. They've all had full support. I offer HH 1 through 10 up as a group or a bundle, unless anyone would like any of them separated.
We have a motion on a bundle.
Hold it. Second.
Okay, any discussion on this bundle? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those are carried. Thank you. Up next, we have Government Operations. Legislator Foley.
Madam Chair, Government Operations had 7 resolutions. 1 was pulled, so I'll offer up 6 as a bundle, unless anyone wants one singled out.
Second.
To clarify, are you limiting GO5 as it was pulled?
Yeah.
Okay, so GO 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7. We had a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those were carried. Thank you. Up next, we have Planning. Legislator Pinckney.
Madam Chair, planning has 5 resolutions. I'd like to offer 1, 2, 3, and 4 is a bundle. Number 5 was amended, and there is a correction in the wording in the title.
Let's do 1 through 4, and then we'll address 5, if that's all right.
Second.
Great. Motion and second on the bundle of 1 through 4. Any discussion on these? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Madam Chair,
opposed?
one count?
I'm sorry, Mr. Latimer, did you oppose or?
No, I'm not opposed, but I just want to make sure that planning, I know that there's been a lot of plans on major solar projects. And I want to make sure that the energy projects that are in the queues, that somehow planning should look at those and make sure that they're runoff and other things.
Let's take care of,
Yeah,
1 through
we
4.
can do that.
PL
We
5.
can do that. I just want to make
Hearing
sure.
none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Those were carried. PL 5, Mr. Pinckney?
PL5, the correct title, or should read, Cayuga County Legislature resolution supporting Veterans Memorial Park Association, including the 2021 NYS CFA grant funding request to implement the Veterans Memorial Park Capital Improvement Plan.
Okay, some of your agendas had a different title, so hopefully you're all looking at the same title. Did you want me to review that again? Okay. Can we get a motion on PL 5 as retitled?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion. Any discussion on this? I have a point of discussion. No one else does. Mr. Patrick? Did you have this? I'm sorry. Oh, did you second it? Yeah, we're having a discussion. Do you have any discussion? My area of discussion on this particular resolution, since I've been on the ledge, I've also had the opportunity to serve on many boards, nonprofit organizations, 501c3s. Many times I've been asked about how can the county help us financially, and it is not something we normally do, to single out one 501c3 and support them financially. So, I would like to offer an amendment to this. And in the actual resolution, you let me know, Mr. Palermo. In the actual resolution, where it states where the money is coming from as a line in our operating budget.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
that's not the resolution that was passed at Ways and Means.
Oh.
That's not in this.
it's not in here.
No, the one came out Ways and Means had no reference to money.
I second.
I think I have the wrong one in front of me. Okay, yeah, I did have the wrong one in front of me. And so there is no reference to where the money's come from,
There's no reference.
There's no money in there.
to no line, no money,
The second
support
sentence,
resolution.
That next class resolve is quote. So it's
Gotcha,
just
thank
this
you. I had,
Project support.
I'm sorry, pardon me, I had that in error and the one in front of me. All right, I kind of revoke my amendment.
The title of the resolution, actually, the resolution was just on the screen. The title was correct. It's just misstated on the agenda. So for clarity, I mean, that was amended at Ways and Means as well.
Okay,
So that is correct for the resolution that we have currently.
right, okay. So I revoke my amendment. Okay. Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Good, Mr. Peters?
No, I'm trying to process what just happened.
I had the wrong one in front of me.
Thank you for the
so
clarification.
That helped.
Glad I voted yes on it.
Okay,
Yeah. we're slowly maturing.
up next, Public Works, is Mr. Whitman and his is Tricia. Okay, if you could present the Public Works resolutions, Mr.
Public Works has 6 resolutions. Actually, 5 resolutions past committee. You can bundle them if you want, or offer them one at a time.
I'll offer them as a bundle.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on these as bundles? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? They are carried. Thank you. JPS, Legislator Vitale.
And sure, JPS had 4 resolutions, all of them went through both committees. And I would ask to bundle all 4, so we make that motion. I also ask that offer me the time to bring another resolution after this goes through before we head off to the next section of our agenda.
Noted.
Second.
Discussion on 1 through 4 as a bundle. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? They are carried. Thank you. Before we move on to our request for executive session, we have the resolution brought to the floor tonight.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to bring forward resolution. I think everybody has copies. If you don't have a copy, there's more up to the front table. It's basically a replace number 4 that was defeated in Ways and Means. And it was establish a public hearing for next legislative session so that we can use the money out of the reserve at Emerson Park, which the tenant pays into for the replacement of the equipment. Because it's a reserve account, it has to have a public hearing. And it would be advantageous to move this forward as quickly as possible, setting the public hearing for next month, and then we might be able to take action right afterwards would be helpful. I would ask somebody to, well, I'll make the resolution.
Second.
Okay, discussion on this. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
May I have a motion for executive session regarding the employment history of a particular person?
I'll move that, Madam Chair.
Right, all in favor?
Madam Chair, do we have any business after that executive session?
I don't know, I don't have any on the agenda. There shouldn't be any.
All right.
Absolutely.
You guys come back in.
Yeah, you have to be on the. right?
Motion to come back into legislative session.
Second?
Me, second by her. Okay, motion to come out, to adjourn.
Motion by Foley, second by Trish.
All right. All in favor? Have a great evening.
Paul, did you make the phone call?